Hi, I'm Lauren Robertstad, and this is Talkin' Derby. Where you'll get a behind-the-scenes look at what it takes to be a Derby girl. The bumps, the bruises, and the trips, and the falls. You'll see it all. And if that's not enough, we have Thunderpants dropping by to share some insight on the season. Now, if you're new to the sport, which I was, you might be a little unfamiliar with roller derby, with the rules, all that stuff. Let's take this time to get you up on your skates and scoring points.
The basics of flat track roller derby. The game of roller derby is played on roller skates. The players wear helmets, elbow pads, wrist guards, knee pads, and not much else. The track is flat, not banked. Each 30-minute half is broken down into shifts called jam. The group of 8 players at the front is called the pack. The pack is made of players who play the position of blocker. Behind the pack is the 2 jammers. The jammers are the most important players on the track and are marked by a large star on their helmet. When the whistle blows, the jammers try to skate their way through the pack and out the other side, but they will be met with the hips, booty, and shoulders of the opposing team's blockers. When 2 bodies make contact on the track, this is called a block. Once the jammers have skated their way through the pack the first time, they're ready to begin scoring. They earn a point every time they legally pass a member of the opposing team. The team with the most points at the end of the game wins. The jammers will fail to earn points if they pass the opposing blockers illegally. Any player who performs an illegal block will earn a penalty. So what's illegal? Elbows, tripping, back blocking, and passing out of bounds. Any player who receives a major penalty has earned a trip to the penalty box. The jam ends when the lead jammer places her hands on her hips, or when 2 minutes has elapsed. 30 seconds later, a new jam begins, and the whole thing starts again.
Now that you have a better understanding of the sport, let's jump into it. The Brewcity Bruisers are a women's flat track roller derby league based right here in Milwaukee, made up of 4 teams, the Crazy Eights, Made in Milwaukee, the Sheevel Knievels, and the Russian Roulettes. As a matter of fact, they just started their 7th season. We'll have more info on how you can join in on the fun later in the show. But switching gears now, if you're looking to lose a couple of pounds and have fun doing it, roller derby is your sport. Let's take an inside look on the training of a derby girl.
The thing with me running practice is that I kind of call every drill by a new name each time we do it, because I can never remember what I called it last time, so I'm like, this is the puppy dog drill, let's do this. But really it's just to tighten up our skills. Often what I do is I'll look at what happened during our Sunday scrimmage, because on Sunday we'll scrimmage, our team will scrimmage one of the 3 other teams, and I'll watch and see what happened, see maybe what mistakes we were making, and then do drills during practice to tighten up areas that need work. So for example, last Sunday, our girls weren't necessarily working together when we wanted to slow the pack. So tonight, I wanted to do drills that would help us pull together and slow the pack, for example. I think it's starting to become more intense. The league is growing. We're kind of a rough and tumble bar league to start, for lack of a better term, and we've been getting, each year, our waiting list has grown and we're getting more trained athletes to join up. So it's getting more competitive to hold a roster spot, and in that regard, you kind of have to bring some athleticism to the table when you join now. You don't necessarily have to be in tip-top shape, and if you're not, and you do make the team, roller derby will get you into shape soon enough.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, round is a shape. and so that's about as in shape as I'm gonna get. I was kind of fortunate in the fact that I've always been really athletic, and I've been in a sport since I was, I don't know, I guess team sports since I was in 5th grade. And so I've always been involved in sports, grade school, high school, and in college, and so it's always kind of there. But roller derby definitely stepped it up a little bit. Being on skates requires a lot of different muscle sets that you don't use running a straight line, or I guess similar muscles to, say, like basketball, getting down low, but having to maneuver while on skates, you know, adds a whole different aspect to it because you have to control something that's not on you or that's not a part of you.
That's what's so great about roller derby, is that you can come in and not necessarily be in the best of shape, but go through the boot camps and the tryout sessions and ultimately making a team and get conditioned for it. So you don't have to walk in being an athlete. You don't have to walk in roller skating your whole life. Yes, there are some women that walk in that mind frame, but there's a lot of women, including myself, that maybe haven't roller skated since we were a little girl or played on a real sport for a while. So you don't have to walk in being a professional.
Wow, talk about a workout. I'm sweating just from watching that stuff. Now we have a very special guest. Let's bring her out. She's from Made in Milwaukee. Please welcome Thunderpants. Hi, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
So you just saw that clip. Now I gotta ask, how often do you guys practice?
Well, we practice mandatory 2 times a week. My team, Made in Milwaukee, practices Thursday nights for 2 hours, and then Sunday mornings we scrimmage with other teams for 2 hours. But there is an opportunity. You can go to as many practices as you want. There's up to 5 a week. So
you definitely have some time.
yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna ask this question also. Thunderpants, not your given name. Where does that come from?
No, actually, we have to think up a little alter ego name for ourselves, and sometimes it's given to you by your teammates, or you can make it up yourself. A lot of people use their real names, like my name is Anna, so you could use Animosity or whichever you choose, but there's an international roster online, and you can't have a similar name to anybody else that's already on the roster. So I could not think of a name because Animosity was taken, all the Anna names were taken, and it was the day before I had to give my name, and I couldn't think of anything. And I walked out of the bathroom, and my boyfriend was sitting there, and he's like, well, I was just thinking about names, and I farted, and I was like, well, what if it's just something completely random, like farts galore or something? And I was like, oh, well, wait a minute. When I was younger, my Aunt Jeannie would read to me, and I'd sit on her lap, and I would break wind a few times, and she would laugh and say, oh, are you thundering in your pants? So Thunderpants was it.
I think that's a great name, great story. Now we've already seen roller derby is a physical sport, and with any kind of physical contact comes those injuries. So let's roll this tape.
In roller derby, it's a contact sport, you know, so you see a lot of bumps and bruises, strains, sprains, you know, a few concussions, things like that are a little bit more serious. You know, that's kind of the main thing that we see is a lot of knee injuries, you know, a few ankle injuries here and there, but, you know, mostly nothing too terribly serious. But, you know, it is an impact sport, so you're going to see some of those things that, you know, you might see in other impact sports or contact sports rather, like football or lacrosse or something like that.
Busted my ankle. This is overconfidence. That was me thinking I could do a move and I wasn't ready for it.
Knock on my head, I'm going to say I've been pretty blessed as far as having no real major injuries, just the normal bruises and bumps that kind of go along with the sport.
I have had a concussion or two, a few ligaments, a torn quad, basically muscle tears and ligament tears, so I've been pretty lucky in that regard. Well, except for the concussions, I might be getting dumber by the day, I don't know. But there's been a lot of broken bones other girls have had, so in that regard I'm lucky. I've never been on crutches and I haven't been out for any significant period of time, so.
A concussion, for example, it's a pretty serious injury to the brain, so that's usually a minimum of a week off, and it starts with some pretty good rest, meaning, you know, they go home and they sleep for a day or two, hopefully, and they just kind of let their brain rest, and then they slowly kind of work them back into play over about a period of a week. And so that's typically how we treat a concussion, but it really all depends on their symptoms and how they manage or handle the exercise rather after that.
Ouch! I think I'll stick to my heels instead of wheels. Now, have you ever had any type of injury?
Yeah, I mean, we're not called Brewcity Bruisers for nothing. I mean, I got one of these bad boys just this last Thursday at practice. But it's just really important to make sure that you have enough pads on. Like, I have bonier hips, so I need to put pads on my hips sometimes. I've had nothing major, broken bones or anything, nothing like that. But you have to watch out for concussions. That's a big one. And that'll sneak up on you. So if you are feeling not so good, you need to make sure that you sit out when you need to. And a lot of the girls want to just keep playing, but you got to take care of your body too. So.
Definitely. Now, how many girls are so lucky to be on Made in Milwaukee?
On Made in Milwaukee, there's about 20 girls on our team. There's about 20 girls on each team. And for the roster for the game, we vote as a team. We can have a choice of having 14 players for the game, or we can vote on having everybody play. So it just all depends on, who's been at practice, who really wants to do it, and if you're not injured, then we've got a team together.
Very cool. Well, for the folks that will never get to be a Derby girl or guy, Irish Vixen puts you in the driver's seat. Let's take a look. That was awesome. I even jumped a few times. I'm here with Made in Milwaukee member Thunderpants. Now I have to ask you, how did you get involved in the Brewcity Bruisers?
Well, I've been involved with the Brewcity Bruisers for about 4 years now. I had a job about 5 years ago, and I was really bored, and there was a bulletin board across the hall. And I had a computer, and one day I looked and saw a flyer for the Brewcity Bruisers. So I looked it up online, and it just really intrigued me. And then I just signed up right on the website to be on a waiting list. So I was on a waiting list for a year, and then after that they called me in and we met at a roller rink and just started learning the basics.
Very cool. Now obviously in roller derby there's injuries, there's a lot of action, but I mean the injuries might outweigh the action in my opinion. So why would someone want to get involved in roller derby?
Well, for me personally, I always played sports. I love being a part of a team and just testing myself physically. But with the Brewcity Bruisers, it's a whole different thing than just a sport. It's the camaraderie. We are definitely a family. Everyone on each team gets along. You know, it's not like me and Milwaukee hates, you know, a different team. It's just we're all part of Brewcity Bruisers. And it's just a lot of fun. You get to learn the strategy of the game, and it always changes. It's not like, you know, there are set rules, but we end up manipulating those rules in strategy. So it's just really mentally demanding as well, which I really enjoy.
You talk about this Brewcity Bruisers family. How many people are in your age range in that family? I mean, what are the age ranges essentially of everyone who participates?
Well, it's, you know, everyone and anyone is welcome to do it. There is, I think the youngest one on the league is 22, and I think the oldest is in her older 40s, I believe.
Wow.
Yep, all shapes and sizes.
Very impressive. Now, how many teams are outside of the city of Milwaukee?
Well, it's really gone viral. Definitely, there's international teams, there's UK teams. You know, that's just everywhere. Recently, I was reading in a magazine that there was a roller derby Olympics, and it was the USA against Canada, and USA ended up winning. So I was really shocked to see that it's gotten so huge.
Yeah, very cool. One thought that seems to be on a lot of people's mind is roller derby a real sport? Let's hear what a couple roller derby girls have to say about that.
That it is a real sport. It's not all for entertainment. These women, they give up their time with their families and work to come out and play some real derby. They're tough women, and it's not a sport that should be undermined or just kind of brushed off.
Derby's a real sport. Derby is very athletic. It's not the show that it once was in the 70s. That's the question I get asked the most. They say, is it real? Yes, it's real. People are pouring their blood, sweat, and tears into this, and it becomes a passion or a full-time hobby that kind of encompasses all of your life, and you involve your family, and this is actually a great place to involve everyone. So
It's along that fuzzy line where people think NASCAR is a real sport, where it's even more convincing for roller derby because we sweat. I mean, you might not be able to see it now, which it might be surprising, but I sweat a lot. In my headband, I could pick it off and probably wring it out. And really, any time spent exerting that much physical energy and effort isn't considered a sport. I don't know. And obviously team sport means doing that much physical exertion with a whole bunch of other people that's not in a gym, that's not by yourself, is a team sport.
A lot of people, I think, might have the idea that it's something like WWF wrestling, and I think that idea comes from back in the day with Bank Trap Derby from the 70s, which I guess was very cheesy, although I never really saw it back then. So we have strict rules. So there's no punching, there's no hitting, there's no tripping. And I think that's what a lot of people think it is, but you can't do that in this sport because you go to the penalty box. So it's very tough and it's very physical, but it's definitely very real.
After seeing all the work you guys put into the practice, there's no question that roller derby is a real sport. So you have a couple more bouts, which you tell me are
Games.
Yes. Left.
Yeah, we call
How
bouts.
is your season shaping up?
Really good. We won our first game, bout. And actually last season we didn't win a game at all. So starting off with a win is definitely, you know, getting our spirits up, and we're ready. We're ready to take on the rest of the games this season. You can look at the schedule on brewcitybruisers.com for the rest of the games.
Now, if they look on the schedule, they're going to want to come, right? So they're going to want some tickets. How would a fan go about getting some tickets?
Well, there are multiple ways. You can track down your local derby girl, and she can help you out. Otherwise, just brewcitybruisers.com. There's a link on there that you can go. It'll take you to Ticketmaster. And US Cellular Arena is where we play. So you can even just go to the box office and buy them right there.
Very cool. Now, how much do tickets cost for someone who would be interested?
It ranges. It depends if you're a child, over 60 or vet. You know, you can get it for a little cheaper. Typically, it's about $18 though. But we also do a lot of nonprofit work. So if you sometimes you can bring a canned good and get a couple dollars off. So
very cool. And how's attendance? Do you have a huge fan base? Do you have just sporadic people who are interested, or do you have like a really huge like cult following?
Well, last season's championship, we had about 3,000 people.
Wow.
And then our first game this season, which was actually on a Packer game day, we still even got brought in 2,000. So it just gets bigger and bigger every season.
Very cool. Now, you just talked about your championship. Who won that championship? Was it you guys?
No, we did not win a game. I
Sore
believe it
spot.
was the Crazy Eights.
Very cool. And as far as you guys getting onto the track and being there with all of your fans, how much more does it matter to you that you have a big group showing up versus sporadic people just checking you out?
Well, I mean, we love the game in general. I mean, we would still be there even if there was nobody there. You know, it's just it's so exciting. But it's so wonderful to see. Our fan base is just amazing. There's so many different people, all walks of life, children, you know, little old ladies, biker dudes.
Very
I mean,
cool.
it brings everyone together, and they have a really good time.
Can you tell me a little bit about the All-Star traveling team?
Yeah, they travel during the summer typically. The All-Stars, they play international teams. They play teams from all over. They fly around, and we also have a B team called the Battle Stars, which they travel locally, like to Madison and Appleton, and just kind of stay more around the Milwaukee area.
Is getting involved in the All-Star team or in the B team, is that something that you'd be interested in the future?
Oh, definitely, yeah. As I said before with the practices, if you want to go to extra practices, Monday night practices are for interleague, it's called. So that's when you can practice with the All-Stars. And if you go to a lot of those practices regularly, then you can try out for the All-Star team.
So a lot of practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you balance daily life, going to school? You're a student, correct?
Yep.
Being a student, having a job, and having, you know, this awesome extracurricular, if you want to call it, activity that you're involved in.
Well, it's such a passion of mine. I would make it work regardless of, you know, how busy I was. You know, it's a really good outlet. So if I'm at home and I'm just stressed out, it's the best anger management. You just go to practice and, you know, it's just like a little workout.
So the Brewcity Bruisers, they started, and then all of these teams formed. How did that come about? What's the history of the Brewcity Bruisers?
Well, in 2004, there were a couple women who are actually still in the league at this time. Some of them left, some of them stayed. They just got together and they heard about roller derby, and they just formed together, got their skates, and just started practicing at roller rinks. And it just, you know, caught on to people around them, seeing how much fun they were having. And so then they ended up entering the WIFTA Association, which is the Women's Flat Track Roller Derby Association. And that really gets you into the league.
So did all of these teams that are like in this league, did they form immediately, or were there 3 teams to start out with and then a couple others kind of jumped on the bandwagon?
I believe it just started with the Brewcity Bruisers, and then the teams just folled after that.
Do you know when you're?
Just because we had so many people coming
sure,
together.
yeah,
you know?
yeah. Huge roller derby female, big giant thing.
Yeah.
Now, did you guys, speaking of females, I haven't seen anything about any guys. Is there a way that guys can get involved, or is it strictly you can be our fans kind of situation?
The guys, definitely, yes. They're actually, we call it MERBY, Men's Derby. And it started out actually a couple of years ago. Some of the husbands and boyfriends of the girls playing fell in love with it too. And so one of the girls in the league, Sivo, her husband, she ended up coaching for them and helped them, you know, figure out the game as well. And they started practicing, and then I think it was 2 years ago, one of our halftime shows was their debut game.
Aww.
So they're called Blitzkrieg.
Very cool. Any animosity, or is it we love you because we're married to some of you?
No, we love it. We love it so much, and it's awesome to be the women starting the game and, you know, sitting on the sidelines and kind of giggling at the men as they're learning.
Role reversal. Very
Yeah.
cool. Very cool. Well, that's about all the time we have. Thank you, Thunderpants, for stopping by and chatting with us. But before we leave you, the game of roller derby can be a little confusing, and even for one ref. See what happens, and we'll see you next time.
It has 4 players on the track that are blockers. 2 of them are wearing helmet panties. Those are the pivots. The pivots line up on the pivot line, and they let the, oh my God, I'm screwing this up. So each team has 5 players on the track. 4 are blockers, 2 are jammers. I screwed it up again. Each team has 5 players on the track. 1 jammer, 4 blockers. The objective of the game is for the pivots, or the jammers. Damn it! Each team has 5 players on the track. 4 of them are blockers, 1 of them is a jammer. The jammer's objective is to get through the pack. When they get through the pack, they have to then lap the pack and come through 1 time to score a point. Oh God, that sounds terrible. Why can't I do this? So each team has 5 players on the track. 4 of them are blockers and 1 of them is the jammer. The jammer's objective is to get through the pack the first time. That is the initial pass. If she breaks through first, she is eligible to become lead jammer. Lead jammer can call off the jam. Lead jammer can also initially score points. That's wrong too. Damn it. Each team has 5 players on the track. 4 of them are blockers, 1 of them is a jammer. The jammers take off after the pack and they each player has 5 players on the you're gonna have like this whole track of badness.